Hello and welcome to another tutorial, and again we're going to be following the Game Maker's Apprentice, but of course a few little changes that I will be making because we're using Game Maker Studio. And today this is going to be our game. It is called Lazarus, and I'm just gonna, yeah, I died. So there, with this little character here, I can move, and he always actually plays jump. You can see these blocks, they randomly appear and they're going to try and crush me, which is not very pleasant. So my objective is to get to the stop here. As you can see, with these different blocks will do different things to each other. You know, depending on, you've got a wooden one, which we've got this one, which is a stone one, much stronger than that one, and oh dear, I'm gonna crush. And we also have a little crush animation like, oh dear. So yeah, that is the game we will be making. So I'm just going to turn this off and boot up Game Maker Studio. So here's Game Maker Studio, and like before, we're going to make a new project. So I'm going to click on New, and there we go. I'm in my C drive, going to Documents, Game Maker Stuff, Tutorials. So I'm where I am. If you want to change yours, you click on this button right here. But by now you should be pro at this, and you're going to navigate to where you want to be. But I'm happy where I am, and for this project I'm going to call this one Lazarus. There we go, Lazarus. I'm going to click Create, and here we go. We've got Game Maker Studio, and similar to what we've done before, we're going to bring in our sprites. And for those who have access to them, brilliant. You're working through chapter 4. For those who don't, you're gonna have to buy the book. To show this book again, it's this one. It comes with the DVD, so you need to get that. Okay, I cannot give it to you because it's not mine to give. I don't want to get in trouble. Right, to get started, we're going to quickly load up our sprites. So we're going to have the first one, which is going to be our Lazarus standing. And we're going to have a little change to the way we do sprites. So you can either go in Resources and create your sprite, or there should be a little green Pac-Man icon, but for those who are still getting used to this, stick with Resources, Create Sprite. So we have our sprite right here. Now usually I kept the full word sprite in there. I'm going to change it a little bit. You could have just S, but I'm going to keep it as SPR, which is abbreviation of sprite, and I'm going to do underscore Laz. Don't need to put the full name in, and then stand, so that I know this is Lazarus. He's a sprite, and it's going to be the standing one. Pretty simple. So I'm going to load up the sprite and navigate to my folders. I've got quite a few folders here, so you can pull this over. And Game Maker Stuff, Tutorials. Here we go. And I want the standing one. There is a standing, so it's just stood still there. Remember, again, you want to remove the background, otherwise you're going to have this stupidly green one there. So let's remove that. That's what you're going to need. And click on Open. And there's our little fella just standing really nicely. Now, one thing we definitely want to make sure of, because in this tutorial we're going to be working with the origin point. If if you are following the Galactic Mail one, before we centered our points, but this time we're going to get a character to be jumping around, and we want to make him look as though he's jumping from the same point. So I'm going to keep his axis right next to him at the top here. The width and height of this GIF image is 40 by 40. That's going to be really important. So we want this to be in the top corner here, right next to him. So I'm going to click OK. I'm happy with that. So that's my standing one. And next we're going to be doing one where he jumps left and he jumps right. So I'm going to load up the sprite. So I'm going to click on the green Pac-Man. I'm going to SPR underscore Laz underscore right. Load the sprite. For some reason it's gone large like this. I'm going to put this onto a list so I can read what's happening. And here we go, Laz right. And we can see the animation where he's jumping to the right. That's pretty good. And click on open. And for a little bit of difference, we've got the axis up here because the animation plays him jumping across there. But I want the axis to appear as though it's at the top of his head, like the way he's standing. And no, I don't want to do that. So to do that, I'm going to change his origin point. Now we're going to be doing this manually. With this, we want to leave the X, which is left and right, as 0, but we want to change the Y to 40. So that's 40. And you can see that it's moved this line, very faintly see it, to just above his head. Okay, it's very important you do this. Remember, that's X at 0 and Y at 40. So click OK. You can hear the dog barking in the background. That's lovely. And now we're going to load up the left one, which is going to be a little bit different. So again, resources, create sprite, spr_LAZ_left. Load sprite, and that's not a happy dog there. So we want Laz left. So he's jumping to the left. I'm going to click on open. Now we can see that the axis is at the top corner there. I want to move it so it's about here. Just to make life simple, because it's 80 by 80, I want these to be at 40. I'm going to click center. And what that's done is moved it so the axis is dead center, but it's right next to the left side of our character and just above his head, as though he was in the standing area. Okay? So click OK. This will make a lot of sense later on. I'm not just going mad for the sake of going mad. And another thing we're going to do, we're going to add in his left jump. We're going to add in all his animations, so we're going to click Pac-Man icon, spr_LAZ_jump_left. So I know this is jumping one, and we're going to bring in the jump left. So he's jumping upwards here. And because he's down here, we want his axis to be at 40 by 40. So I'm going to click on center. I'll just automatically bring it to the center, 40 by 40, as though it's in the starting position. So click OK. Let's bring in all the rest. Oh, spr_LAZ_right. Oh, sorry. _jump_right. Load sprite, and we want the jumping right one. He's jumping in the opposite direction because he's going to be jumping on top of boxes. So we're going to jump up. Now this one is starting position is on the left hand side, so we can leave the X as 0. We want to change the Y to 40. So it's just at the top there. Okay, so hopefully you're starting to see method to the madness. So I'm going to click OK. And then we're going to bring in a couple of others. We're going to bring in his afraid one. So spr_LAZ_afraid. Load sprite, and this should be him being afraid. I'm about to get squished. Oh dear. Click on open. Bring this up a little bit so you can see. And with this one, because his axis in the top corner there at 0, 0, I'm going to leave it like that for now. Remember, for this exercise, his axis needs to be in the top left hand corner, just above his head. which is why we're making sure that all the others do the same. And then click OK. And finally, we need the moment where he's going to get squished. So again, loading another sprite. There's lots of these. Oh, go away, you. Some weird message coming up. I have to sort that out in a moment, but I want to get these sprites sorted first. LAZ underscore. Let's see, squish. Load sprite. There he is, squished. You get squashed. Lots of goo all over the place. That's wonderful. Open. And again, leaving it in the top right hand corner on 0, 0. That's absolutely fine. So I'm going to click OK. And that's all the sprites loaded. Now with this tutorial, we're going to get him to call up different actions. So when he's standing, we press the right button. We're going to get him to play, we'll switch to the right animation and play it. So to make life easy, I'm going to very quickly create his stand, right and left actions, and then we're going to go back and add in all the events and actions to trigger each other. So to do that, we're going to go to Resources, click on Create Object, and just move this so you can see it nicely there. And again, obj underscore LAZ underscore stand. I'm going to load in the stand sprite and just click OK for now, and there it is. Resources again, create object, and again this is being a bit annoying, just going to move it to the side there, and obj underscore LAZ underscore right, and load in the right sprite. Click OK for now. Resources, create object, which for some reason goes all the way over there, which is annoying. obj underscore LAZ underscore left. And bring in his left sprite. And click OK. So we got those ones ready. In fact, we might as well bring in all the sprites, or just all the objects, so they're done and dusted with. So resources, create object, obj underscore LAZ underscore jump underscore right, and bring in the right jump. Click OK. And finally, I'm just gonna, I'll leave the squashed and the afraid one for later. I'm just gonna bring in the obj Laz underscore jump underscore left. Bring in the left animation and click OK. So there we go, we've got all these sorted and at the ready. So we're going to open up his right animation. Move this into position here so that fits nicely into there, and we're going to call up the end animation event so that when it plays this action, when this right movement is played, at the end of it, it's going to replace the right one with him standing. So it's kind of like taking a step. So you move right and then you stand. You move right again, you stand. Then you go left, you stand. It keeps switching them like that. So with that in mind, we're going to go to Add Event. Pull this over here so you can see. Other. Animation End. And before, we used to use the fixed movement and also the free movement. This time we're going to use a personal favorite of mine, the jump one, where we actually just allow the animation to play, then we jump to that position. This one is so much better, especially if you're going to make platform games. So we've got jump position, which is in the jump section, first one. I'll just pull this in. So we've got jump to position, and for this one, because he's jumping to the right, which is going to be plus x, we're going to type in 40. Leave y as 0 because he doesn't go up or down, and making sure that relative is enabled. If you didn't have relative enabled, what he will do, he'll jump to 40 on your stage, not to its position. So relative is plus where he is. So click OK. And we're also going to switch him back to his standing one. So we're going to have to click the main one tab, and we've got objects here. We want this one, change instance in the object section, and we want it to change itself, change into him standing, and that's what we need to do because he doesn't need to perform any events. So click OK. And that's all you need to do for this one. So I'm going to click OK there. And now I'm going to bring in his left one. And we're going to do almost the same, just with different settings for the jumping around. So at the end of the animation, so in event, other, animation end, we're going to bring in the jump position, or move, so that's move towards, so that's the jump position. See, even I get it wrong sometimes. And I'm right clicking, by the way, to make it jump there instead of dragging it over. Now this one is going in the opposite direction, so we need the X to be minus 40, so it's going left this time, and relative enabled. Click OK. Then we're going to go to add event again. Oh no, we don't need add event, sorry. Don't need add event, that's my mistake. We're going to bring in main one, and we're going to go to objects, change instance, self, change this back to the stand one, so at the end of the animation does this, and just press OK. And that's all you need to do for that one, and we're going to do the same for the jumping ones. Oops. Doing the wrong mouse click there. If you accidentally right click, you can just click away, that fixes it. So these are going to be exactly the same. Other, animation end. Going to bring the jump. I do love this jump action. It's makes life so much simpler. Now this time, with this character, he's going to be moving up and also to the right. So both of these, X and Y, have to be 40. So 40 by 40. And make sure relevant is ticked, or relative, sorry, not relevant. Going to the main one tab, I'm going to click on change instance. Now change it back to the standing one and click OK. That's OK. And then finally the jump left. Bring this in here. Add event, other, animation end. I'm going to get his jump position, so jump to position. Now this one is going to go minus 40 in diagonal position, so it's going to go minus 40 by minus 40. Relevant ticked, and click OK. So what I'm going to do next, now this doesn't say in the book, but I'm going to cheat a little bit. Let's see. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I just remembered I did a little mistake on the right one. I'm just going to double click on that. Yeah, I did this wrong, the jump position. It's a bit funny when you're working with X and Y coordinates. Usually going up is plus, but in Game Maker Studio it's completely different. When you're going up, you're minusing the Y, which is the complete opposite, so that's why I got this wrong. So the Y has to be minus 40, so double check you did that and don't do the mistake I did. So I'm explaining why I got that wrong there. So even I get the mistake. So that's minus 40, so hover over. So that's 40x minus 40y. X becomes before y. Double check that I've got this one right. Both minus 40, that is correct. So even nearly I got it wrong. And now we're going to create another object, so it's going to be the squished one. So I'm going to go to Resources, Create Object, and just move this so I can actually work with it. obj underscore LAZ underscore, and it's the one we want, squished. Bring in the squished sprite, that's right, there we go, squished. Just going to move this to the side. Oh, don't know why that's acting up there, it's a bit funny. And what we want to do is, at the end of this animation, we want it to display a message saying, oh dear, you've failed. So add event, other, end animation, and in the, the main 2 tab, so click on main 2. Here we go. In main 2 we have a section called info right here with a speech bubble. This displays a message. So I'm going to bring this in here into the actions, and now I can type in a message. So I'm going to be in big capitals, scream it out. So your history. And what we're going to do is a bit different. I'm going to do a hash, and what the hash does, it takes whatever we write next onto a new line. This is like pressing enter if you're typing in Word. So just be a bit nicer now. Better luck next time. Okay. So then we click OK. And what we're going to do next, we want to restart the room after this message. So this message displays, we press OK, and then it restarts the game. So I'm going to click on the main 1 tab, and here we have rooms. Which one is it now? I think, yeah, we want the last one. So out of the 3 on the top row, we want the 3rd one. Drag that in, which has a little arrow going into itself, so that's restarting the current room. And it says right here, restart the current room. That's the one we want. Now we've got all that set up, the last thing we want to do, then let's get really complicated. I'm just going to click OK because we've finished with squished. We've got everything, we've worked on every one of these but the stand one. Now the stand's going to get complicated. The only buttons we want to be able to push is left and right. We don't want to press up or, you know, force it into jumping. We want the character to realize, okay, I've got an object in front of me, I'm going to jump it. If I don't, just move to the left or right like normal. This can get a bit tricky, but it is doable. I'm going to double click on last stand, bring that in and try and move it into place. There we go. Hopefully you're using a bigger screen than I am, so it'll be easy for you. And I'm actually going to move. Okay, I can't. Yeah, I can move this. There we go. I've got a bit more space to work with. That's not nice. So in the stand one, we want to get him to move left and right. So I'm going to start with the right one. So this is going to be a key press. Don't want to hold it down and make him go forever. So on key press, I want to select the right. And what we're going to do a checking event. It's going to check if there's an object in front of us, and if there is, it's going to jump. If not, just move to the right. So we're going to go into control. Here we go. We've got this section called questions. So it's questioning what's happening. We've used some of these before. We want the second one, which is check collision. So we want to check if there's something in front of us. So we want to make sure that solid is on, so the objects we use are going to be solid. We want Y to be 8. It's a little bit below our current position. and make sure relative is ticked, or relevant, whichever you want. So click OK. So we're checking if there's something slightly below our current position where we are, and then we're going to be doing the following actions. So we're going to start the block of actions, so I'm going to bring start block in to start it all off, and then we're going to ask a question, check if this is empty. It's going to check if something's in the way. So now we've got X, we're going to put that to 40, leave it to only solid, and make sure relevant is ticked, so something in front of us on the right side, is there anything in front of us? Okay, so that's what we're checking. And if there is something in front of us, well, if there's nothing in front of us, we want to just move to the right. So we're going to change the sprite, so we're going to go to main 1 and change instance, and we're going to change this to him moving to the right. And we want it to yes performance events, because we've got events programmed into our right one. At the end of its animation, it's going to change back to a standing one. So yes, we want it to do its stuff. So I'm going to click OK to that. Now, what if there is an object in the way? I'm going to change this to else. So I'm going to, where's the else question? I think it's in control. Here we go, other. We want the else one here. It's very much like saying I'm going to walk through the door, or else if there's a fire, I'm not going to walk through the door. So that's the nice thing with these questions. You can give yourself two options that you can program these in. So we're going to ask the question, check if it's empty. And we are going to check if X is at 40 and Y is at minus 40, so minus 40. Make sure relevant is ticked. Relatives, no, relative, I keep saying that wrong. Click OK. And then we're going to change its action to the jumping one. So I'm going to main 1, bring in the change instance. I'm going to change it to the jumping one, so jump right. And yes, we want it to perform its actions. So once you have that, make sure it's set to self. Click OK. So after all that, we can then end this block of events. Well, that's our actions that's going to be happening by going into control and bring in the end block. Yep. And that's it. So now what it's checking is that if there's any objects at our feet, so or any objects in our way, it's going to perform the jumping actions here and there. So now we're going to do the one going left. So we're going to add event, key press, and left. And again, we're going to be checking collision. And we're going to set the X to 0 and the Y to 8. And make sure relative is ticked. And we're going to do our starting blocks just like we did before. I'm going to check the question if something is empty. And because we're going left, we're going to change this around slightly. We're going to go minus 40 and Y set to 0. Relative checked. Click OK. And go to the main 1 tab. We want to switch a sprite. This is very repetitive and you will get used to this. So I'm going to just go to the left and yes, we want to check event. Click OK. And then we want to do the else function if there is a collision. So we're going to go, where's it, control, else, so just drag else in there, you don't have to do anything to it. We're going to ask the question of check if it's empty, check if anything's in the way. This time we're going to go minus 40, minus 40. Relative checked, click OK. And then we're going to bring in the switch sprite, which is in the main 1 tab. I'm going to switch these 2 blocks. I'm going to change it to the jumping left. Just make sure I got that one correct. And yes, and I do apologize if you can hear the rain in the background. It's starting to really rain out there. We're going to go to the control tab and we're going to end the block. So there we go, that's all you need to do right now. Oh, I just remembered, one last thing we do have to do if our character, there's nothing below us, because some of these boxes will be crushing each other, and as they fall, our character might be standing on top of it. So we want him to move down with the boxes. So we're going to add a step event which checks for every millisecond the game is running if something's happening. It's going to check if there's objects below our character. So we're going to go to add event, step, and then select step. And with this, we are going to check if something's empty. So in the questions that are on the control tab, we're going to apply it to self, and we're going to check if the Y below us, if there's anything below us. So we're going to set that to 8 and make sure relative is checked. So you have your screen like mine. Click OK, and then we're going to move our character to a new position below us. So I'm going to go to move, and we want to jump to a position. So that's in jump, the first one. And we're going to change the Y to 8. Now this will make it go down. Remember, the higher the Y is, the further down it goes. The less it is, the higher it goes. Bit confusing, especially if you're used to using XY coordinates. Make sure relative is checked and click OK. And then that should be it for the movement. So what we need to do next, we actually need to build a room. But before we could do that, we actually need to throw some blocks in here. So I'm going to create another sprite. So I'm going to resources, create sprite, and I'm going to call this SPR_wall. I'm going to load the sprite. We have this little block wall. So I'm going to click open. We want its X and Y axis to be 0, so leave that as it is and click OK. And now we want to create an object that we can use in our room. Remember, we cannot use sprites. They're just the images that also containing the animation, or a series of images making up the animation. It's the objects that we use that contain all the extra information like events, actions, and what things do. So we go to resources and we're going to create an object, and this will be obj_wall. We're going to load the sprite wall. Now if you remember, with our jumping and checking actions, we're checking if there's a solid in the way. So we need to set this object to be that solid. So down here you should have visible and solid and other options available. I'm going to tick solid to tell it that this is the solid object that we will be using. And all you have to do now is just press OK. And that is the solid wall done, ready for us to use. We just got to use it in a room. So I'm going to go to Resources, Create Room. We've got a brand new room, which I'm going to maximize here. And we want to use our blocks, so make sure that you have your wall item selected. That's in the Objects tab. Now, one little thing, I'm going to undo all those. Now, I've just noticed that my blocks, each of them are 40, but as you can see, it's a bit bigger than the little blocks that I'm using in my room here, which can be really annoying. There is a way to change the spacing between your grid. If we go to the top here, we've got Snap X 32, Snap Y 32. I can click in these and manually change it to 40 by 40, the same width and height as my pixels. So now when I click the block, I can load them in. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes just clicking away. There is a way I can hold Shift and that moves it. Is there a way of doing this? Oh yes, if you hold Control and Shift together, you can actually draw and just drag and draw all these objects in. It does make life much easier. I'm doing this as a nice thick two-layered wall here, and down in the wall here I'm going to put in 2 blocks so that I can jump up and just make sure that I can't jump back if it's too high for my character, and then just another one, so like a pyramid, just to check that I'm jumping correctly. And then finally we actually want to put our character in. So I'm going to go over here in the Objects tab and change it from Object Wall using this drop down, this menu icon here, to Object or Ob Laz Stand. Then I can click and drag and draw my character in the room. And now finally I just want to change this room to the test room so I know which room it is. And up here in the tabs I can go to Settings, and we've got Name. I'm going to call this Room _ Test, and the rest I'm going to leave by default. Once I'm happy, I can click the little tick icon here, and there we go. Remember to save your work, so I'm going to save mine and then test the room. It does take a while for it to load, so hopefully it will do it eventually. It does take longer to load when you're first loading it. After that, it won't take as long. So there's my character. Can move to left. There he goes. He's hopping away. Can move to the right. That works. So I'm going to try going up. Whoa. Okay, that didn't that didn't work very well. So there's something gone wrong there. This is why tests are always a good thing. Let's see what happens when it goes right. So I'm just gonna... Okay, the right works, and he jumps down okay. And he's stuck now. For some reason... See? Just double check that again. Okay, that is very weird. For some reason his jumping up doesn't quite work, so let's have a look. So we know he jumps up to the right fine, he jumps down to the left fine, he moves to the left fine, so everything but jump left has gone completely wrong. So I'm going to have a look at that and see what's gone wrong here. This is a good example of testing and making sure something is working and identifying which object or which action is not working. So jump left. I'm going to have a look at this. Here we go. This is what I completely forgot to do. So you can see that even I get it wrong sometimes. I'm going to move this just so it fits. Unlike the others, we've got him jumping, but he keeps jumping. I forgot to get it to switch back to the standing one. So if we go to the main one tab, on objects, get it to change instance, self, to the stand one, and we don't want it to perform any events. Click OK, and OK, save, and test it again. Hopefully it loads much quicker than it did before, and it does. So now, moment of truth. Yay, I fixed it. So, yeah, he's jumping up and down beautifully. I'm really happy with the movement. So in the next video, what we're going to do, we're going to create our falling boxes, and we're going to get him to the falling boxes are going to change how they work with each other, because we've got cardboard boxes and metal boxes, and of course cardboard can't beat metal, but metal can crush cardboard, so we've got a bit of a rock, paper, scissors thing going on with our boxes there, which makes the game a bit more intricate, a bit more complicated, but I'm just so pleased that he's moving nicely now. He's such a happy character. So stay tuned for part 2.